Do you want to know what's annoying? When you start recording a video, you get minutes in, you get a flow, your momentum's going, and QuickTime Player just crashes, and there it goes. I could save it and then piece it together, but remember, I don't edit these videos at this stage anyway. I'm not editing them, so it's like I'm not putting those two things together. I'd rather just keep it going, and then we're gonna go from there. So yeah, day 15, 0 to 100K, while we fight mediocrity every single day. How we doing? I was actually telling you this before that I've recently been like a bit burnt out, but I'm not like completely burnt out, so I'm doing all right. And yes, I can take days off, but they don't change the mental burden that I've got currently or the amount of bandwidth that I've got to work through. I could find more effective ways to deal with this. Mm, I think I've found as many as I can right now. Granted, the problems that I'm dealing faced with, the debt and all that other shit. Yeah, woo, 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 woo. But I was using the analogy of getting through this phase where you can't really take many days off or take a good holiday without losing a lot of momentum. And if you've got money in the bank, great, but I don't. As we've already established, I don't have what I used to have in the bank. So I actually have to keep going every single day. Otherwise, there is no eating. And that position in itself is kind of humbling, but it's nice. Oh no, it sucks. Sorry, I'm lying. It really sucks because like days where you get brain fog, you get that headache, and you're just trying to focus on something, and it's like it's not working out. Oh mate, it's long. But that's just where we're at. And the analogy that I actually gave was getting through this phase is like trying to be an airplane that takes off. You cannot get an airplane into the sky unless you hit a certain speed and go at a certain velocity. Well, speed is velocity times whatever it is. I'm not a physicist, but you get the gist, innit? Unless I continue to get through this phase, I can't get to the stage where I can delegate a lot of these things and have the revenue there to be able to do that. Otherwise, yeah, I just can't do it. So hey, but I wanted to say I have a comment. I have two comments. One of them's from Isaac. He went, Zai, this is shit. So I'll take his word for it. I guess it is shit. And I'm sorry, Isaac. But that's your problem. The next one from underscore K hyphen MD. Thank you for giving such a thoughtful comment, unlike other people. The comment was, what's your opinion on VC? You previously mentioned raising money in the past. Would like to hear about your experience with that, especially seeing as you're in the UK. I never really hear of companies raising here. Would you try it again, or would you consider it again when in the US, as they're a bit more generous with it there? Ooh, what's my opinion on VC-backed companies? I don't know. I guess it depends on what your overall goal is. The more I think about my goal, well, it depends on what your goal is and the time that you want to get there. Because say if you're already asking about VC and about the location side of things, I'm assuming you know that there's different types of vehicles, funding vehicles available to yourself, and different types of people you can get that money from, right? I don't think I have a VC fundable company, and I don't believe I'm going to be building one unless you know what? In the UK, I certainly don't. UK investors, they don't like companies like mine and business models like mine, but I can understand why, and that's fair. If I'm trying to get VC money, which I have, as amazing as it sounds, as amazing as it looks on paper, great. It doesn't work unless I've got nepotism. There are other people who are very connected in, a similar industry or this industry and have similar business models to some extent, but their connections just allow them to open up their connections or nepo babies can have the opportunities that I don't have, and that's fine. I know life isn't fair and things aren't going to change if I cry about it. So like that's just that. So don't take it as a criticism in that sense. It's just how life works in this regard. I can change it, but I don't want to do the things that are required. Who's gonna kiss ass all day? I really don't like begging. I I don't mind pitching given the opportunity, but whenever I've been in conversations around the whole VC stuff, I've always felt like they have their noses pushed up at me, and I didn't start a business to feel like I'm in that position. Like that's some shit that you get when you go for a job interview or you work at a company that's not really that great. I don't want to deal with that. Well, at least in the UK, that's how it feels, isn't it? I can't speak for the rest of the world. My experience, yeah, probably. I pitched with Love Circular. I actually pitched to. I think I successfully got at least maybe 7 or 8 conversations with VCs. The majority of them said no. As you can imagine, like majority said no. The reasons being is because the model they want software. Granted, it makes sense in it, and they wanted sexy software. We had a proposition which was software driven, and it was going to go down a different route from where we're currently at, being just service providers as like training. But they wanted something else, and I can understand that bit. But we just didn't fit that criteria, and some of the VCs. This is one thing that I don't like or didn't appreciate about my experience doing this was there were times where I wanted to raise money and I'd speak to someone and they would say, "Oh, this will never work," or like, "I've done this before. I've done." They never say I've done this. They say I've done something similar and it just didn't work. I don't believe this model works unless X Y Z, and they like set some really ridiculously high standard. I can't lie, when that's happened maybe twice, and every time it happened, I looked at that person and thought, I'm struggling to believe you. I'm not even that I'm struggling to believe you. I don't believe you really wanted to do it in the first place, and that's why it didn't work. Because I think there are a million ways to solve a lot of these problems. And on top of that, sometimes these people, you actually look at the thing that they did and you think your thing is nothing like mine, and it's not even remotely close. My thing is significantly much more valuable to people, and you, it's so, I'm not going to get into it because it feels like I'm slating people, and that's not the vibes that I'm trying to bring here. But at the same time, yeah, I can't speak for that really. People like a lot of VCs in the UK seemed I can't say a lot, but a lot that I encountered seemed like they were either jealous or they just wanted to block an opportunity, which was also pretty shit. And there are companies that quite a few companies get funded in the UK, but doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like a bit of a meritocracy here. Like you genuinely, in many places you have to know someone, of course, but like in the UK, it does feel like it's very difficult to get funding unless you are very well connected. Granted, as you can imagine, you want to be well connected to be able to, improve your network and do all the other amazing things. But in the UK, like unless, like, oh mate, when I did it, I had to jump through ridiculous hoops just to get opportunities, and sometimes like I've seen other companies that get funded for similar things, and I look at them and I look at what we do, and it's like we're not that dissimilar. Yes, our pitch probably could be better than theirs, or X. What like there are so many variables at play, but sometimes you find out what companies get funded. You look at their pitch deck, and you look at their plans, and you just think, how on earth did you get money? What do you know, or not necessarily what, who do you know? Because when looking at this deck, it's awful. And then you start thinking about whether the founders or like the team have an unfair advantage or like really big competitive advantage, and sometimes they just don't, if I'm honest. Like they don't on paper at least, but they were just really good friends with somebody that worked there. And that's how they got a million pre-seed. I'm not even going to talk about that. Would I consider it again when I moved to the US? It's not my intention to, but as you already are aware, they are completely different with money. Also, yeah, in the UK, it felt like there was just, like no one wants to risk anything. Literally, investing is a numbers game. It's playing the lottery. You invest in 100 companies, three might return anything great and of true significance that will cover the rest of the fund and profit. Many will be failures, and some will just be good businesses. But in like, it feels like to be in that bracket of fundable companies, oh mate, like in education especially, like not much is going on here, and that's where my business model predominantly is. And in future it will adjust because there'll be other companies within the portfolio, but that's just where we're at right now, and that's how it looks. Would I consider it again though? I think I would. I certainly would. Not. It depends on what comes up, but I don't necessarily think VCs are at the top of my list. I'd rather go down the route of angels and other partners. I mentioned something earlier on today, but I believe I mentioned it in a previous episode where I talk about the fact that I want to build an ecosystem. Oh, you know, I even talked about it yesterday, right? So, in my mission to get 100, no, not 100, 1 million people into tech, I'm realizing that across the board, like education, what I do currently, the numbers are too slow. At most, if like we're doing boot camps, we might pull how many people in from boot camps? Biggest boot camps are doing like 8,000 people, 10,000 people a year. That's just the biggest ones, right? Even if we were doing that number, let's say, that number maybe 15% succeed. Not because the other 85 were incapable, not near it. Sometimes people just don't do enough work a lot of the time. But let's say 15% is the success rate, right? Off 10,000, that's only 1,500 people. And if I want to get a million, like I've got to find way more ways to get that going and way more ways to get greater numbers. So what can I do to give myself a better advantage? I can create more accessible content, something that may compete with the likes of a Code Academy. Yes, that will be significantly better for at least introducing technology into people, into the path of people who may not be familiar with it. And also, there's opportunities to potentially work with schools. Yeah, schools have a lot large numbers. I'm sure we could find something, right? So these are some avenues to get even more people in at the very bottom of the funnel. As I work, wait, at the top of the funnel. As I work down the funnel, there are already people who are somewhat capable, but they're just not aware of how to get over the line. At that point, my second area of focus, which will likely be recruitment, will come into play. I believe I'll be able to do things in a recruitment field where A, we've got talent that's already trained from the education company, and B, we can scoop up people who may just need a bit of training, give them some of our, have synergies with our education company and give them opportunities. And by doing something like that through our recruitment company and the education side of things, it puts you in a great position, especially with how our background works with getting people ready and into role. I'm sure we can get more people into role doing that. I've actually been trying to speak to some people that I know in recruitment for a while now. It's kind of difficult, but if you're in recruitment, please, I would love to talk to you. And especially if you ran your own recruitment company, that would be super advantageous because I want to start thinking about how I will one day go about it. I know that recruitment is different in the US than it is in the UK, and the market's completely different. But one of the things that I'm keen on doing is getting involved in recruitment. The opportunities are incredible in the States by the looks of it, of course, and I think it's just a great lateral step for my education company. Those two will have great synergies, and that will also give even more people who go down the education route that bit more confidence that we can help them get employed. That's what people come to us for, right? Then the third company is actually a product. I guess you can call it a product studio or product agency, digital one. That is one of the things that I'd like to do with that company is I would like to build products, education related products that at least break down the barriers. Maybe it's coding apps for kids, maybe it's not coding apps, maybe it's VR tools and things like that that will help the next generation and help them gain better insight into technology and careers in technology. Yeah, like it just speaks for itself. That's probably where I have the most fun because I get to create shit. That's what I want to do: create cool stuff and have other people really enjoy it. The last thing that I probably will do within this portfolio of companies that work towards building towards getting 1 million people into tech, that number will probably increase. It will be to start thinking about acquiring and acquisitions or investment. I'd like to invest in other companies that have adjacent missions or missions that align with my overarching goal. And if I can do that effectively, I will be able to speed up the process of being able to get 1 million people into role, as well as that I may be able to, yeah, I'll just speed it up. Why not? And hopefully we can bring that sort of stuff into our ecosystem, and I'll have a portfolio of companies that all work on improving high education, making sure people get hired, and working on cool shit in between. And that's like what I'm aiming for. Maybe if I pitch that as an idea and I put some numbers behind it, all of a sudden we might be able to start a fund or some other stuff. I don't know. But that's what I'm working towards in terms of getting 1 million people into roles. I did have a note that I wrote down on my Slack, right? It was telling people to stop taking things so seriously. Shout out to yourself, Sosa, for bringing this up in our lesson today. I must have said something. Oh, a student of mine told me an idea they had. I said, "Don't waste your time doing it." And they said they we built a rapport, so it's not like I'm being a cunt. It's like relax. But we built a rapport, and that person was like, I love how honest you are and how you like unbothered with it. I can't lie, that's half of the autism. It's probably that because it's just like I don't want to filter it. I just let it be. It saves us both time. But I could appreciate their approach to it because they knew that it was with positive intent and they didn't take it seriously. I know I can't speak for everyone in the world, but fuck me, a lot of you people on the internet take things way too seriously, and even in real life. And I promise you, you just have a net negative experience when it comes to people and life. Like, what's the point? One of the reasons why I'm very keen on, the whole message of don't like taking things personal, especially if you're fighting mediocrity, is because at the end of the day, you need to be as honest with yourself as possible, and that means accepting things you don't like, whether you like accepting things whether you like them or not. But at the same time, you get the information and you get the data and you can improve. You get a choice. But if you're too scared to hear, oh, my work's shit, or my idea is shit, or like maybe I'm not as good as I think you are, like someone telling you maybe you're not as good as they think you are, like, yo, be okay with it. Because at the end of the day, like, your job's to take that data, figure out what you like, what you don't like about it, and move on. Otherwise, you're just gonna, like I said, you're gonna dwell over things that aren't, and they're not serious. Um, who wants to be sad? Who wants to be sad because we care about what other people think that's negative about us? A big thing for me is like, yo, you can say what you want. I might be there's a chance I'm gonna be offended. I'm human after all, but at the same time, my ability to work with what information I'm being given is, I think it's one of my strong suits, and I'm okay with that. Because at the end of the day, if my goal is to become an incredible designer, and someone goes, yeah,